Leslie B. Never thought I'd be here, but here we are. I'm Leslie B. Never lucky, that was me. Didn't know what the future had in store. Late night TV, mysteries on repeat. Just the stories always left me wanting more. Watch the juice, couldn't look away. Unsolved mysteries almost every day. Murder she wrote, Law and Order 2. Forensic files have me stuck like glue. Netflix crimes and courtroom scenes. Somewhere in between my dreams, I felt a spark, I couldn't let go. I wanted my own true crime show.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. So while we're on indictment watch, we can watch another case, but this will probably be a while before it goes to trial. I didn't know about this case, but then I was talking to somebody that worked in Des Moines, and they know about my hobby and said, you need to check this out. And I do remember when this came on the news. It was like 15 years ago. And Ashley Okland, here, she was 27, and she was doing an open house in this neighborhood with these townhomes. And somebody came in and shot her twice. No arrests were made until late March. So just a few weeks ago. So we're going to watch this little clip, and then we're going to play the arraignment. But good evening. I'm so happy y'all are here. So, well, hi. Good to see y'all. Everybody, thanks for being here. And if you're on rewatch, thanks for being here. Well, maybe that's not playing.
Breaking news right now at 4. Kristin Ramsey's attorneys say the state has no new evidence that led to her first-degree murder charge for the death of Ashley Okland.
They make this claim in new court documents filed just 30 minutes ago. We have team coverage following these new developments. KCCI's Bo Bowman is outside the Dallas County Courthouse with more on Ramsey's background and what's expected to be said in her court appearance tomorrow. But first, we want to get to Laura Terrell. Laura, not only are Ramsey's attorneys criticizing the grand jury process, but we're also learning what prosecutors say happened the day Oakland was killed.
Yeah, a lot of new information coming out today, Ben and Stacey. Ramsey's attorneys say the grand jury was not shown a firearm, ballistics evidence, DNA evidence, fingerprints, digital evidence, any new eyewitnesses or confessions of the crime. This response comes hours after the state filed a new motion resisting that Ramsey's bond be lowered. Those documents filed by the state say a witness whose townhome shared a wall with the model townhome heard what appeared to be gunshots that day. The witness then reportedly saw Ramsey outside the front door of the model townhome shortly after. The witness reportedly told police she saw Ramsey pacing and on her cell phone before she drove off erratically. The document says Ramsey returned back to the crime scene shortly after leaving. Prosecutors also say Ramsey has been interviewed multiple times and has given different accounts of her whereabouts that day. They say 2 search warrants of her home revealed multiple firearms. However, they have not said if they have the firearm used in the crime.
This is a Des Moines news website. Hold on a second.
Taxes was chasing updates and getting nowhere. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert, doing it all for you.
Okay, I hate this.
While keeping you in the loop. So you can keep chasing this feeling. Now this is Taxes. Intimate TurboTax.
Season is officially underway.
I'm not going to worry about the timeline. Maybe. Okay, now it'll work. Hey, my pup listens. Thanks for joining. Good to see ya. Hey, Lake Girl, Frog Face, John, Kristen. Hey, everyone. Have y'all heard about this case? Let me know in the chat. Hey, Maestro and Rosie. And I just saw somebody posted, was it Late Girl, that they let the Bahamas guy go? Interesting. I look better without the rat. Thanks. Top Cat, that is the mystery. Did they know each other? So what we do know is that Ashley was a realtor for this builder, Rutland, I think is the name of it, or Rotland Homes or something. And the lady arrested, Kristin Ramsey, also worked for them then. She was a sales manager or something like that. So that's just kind of what people have put together from her LinkedIn. Kristin, who's been arrested and alleged in this, is or has been working for a title company. So we'll see. No one really knows. Yeah. So she was 27. She was doing an open house. It was April 2011. Here it goes. April 2011, agent Ashley Okland was scheduled to host an open house from 1 to 6 p.m. at a model townhome on Stone Creek Court in West Des Moines, Iowa. The property is owned by, it's spelled Rottlund, but I think they pronounce it Rutland Homes, where Kristin Ramsey works as a sales manager and is being marketed through Iowa Realty. Shortly before 2 p.m., Oakland sends an email from her computer to a friend about unrelated social plans. Investigators later determined this suggests she was alive, not in distress, and inside the townhome at that time. Shortly after 2 p.m., Shortly after 2 p.m., a neighboring witness and her mother, who share a wall with the model townhome, hear two loud noises described as thuds, spaced 3 to 4 seconds apart. Investigators believe these sounds were gunshots. Moments later, the witness sees Ramsey outside the front door of the model townhome. A short time after that, she observes Ramsey pacing near her vehicle while talking on her cell phone. Court records indicate the call was made to another Rutland Homes employee within 2 minutes of the noises. The witness then sees Ramsey back her vehicle up at a high rate of speed in an erratic manner and drive away before returning to the area shortly thereafter. Concerned that something is wrong, the neighbor enters the townhome and finds Oakland unresponsive on the ground. At 2:09 p.m., a 911 call is placed. Responding officers recovered 2 fired .38 caliber cartridge cases at the scene. In the years that follow, Ramsey is interviewed multiple times by law enforcement and provides conflicting accounts of her whereabouts and actions that day, which also conflict with statements of other witnesses. So then on April 10th, 2011, the medical examiner conducts an autopsy, determining she died from multiple gunshot wounds. One was shot in the head and the other in the chest. May 2011, law enforcement executes a search warrant at Kristin Ramsey's home, recovering multiple firearms, illegal substances, and posters threatening violence. June 2024. So then what's that, 13 years later? Iowa Attorney General launches a cold case unit designed to dedicate investigators and prosecutors to unsolved cases across the state. April 16, 2025, the cold case unveils a deck of playing cards aimed at generating new leads in the case, and it is featured as the 10 of diamonds, and her family joins Attorney General at the announcement. March 17th, 2026, investigators execute a second search warrant at Ramsey's home in Woodward, Iowa, again recovering multiple firearms, illegal substances, and similar threatening posters. That's interesting. That day, a Dallas County grand jury indicts 53-year-old Kristin Ramsey on a charge of first-degree murder. She's booked into the Dallas County Jail on a $2 million cash-only bond. Then She's seeking right now, later in March, she filed seeking a reduction of her $2 million cash only bond to $100,000, the option to post a 10% for release. She agrees to conditions. So, but let's go ahead and watch the arraignment. I watched it today at work, or listened to it, I should say. But I'm so happy y'all are here. I think this will be interesting. Hey, Millie, you got your package? I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, I've just read the basics. So it's been a cold case for 15 years. And this lady right here in the light bluish gray jacket has just been arrested in March. She's 53 now, but this happened almost 15 years ago. So I thought this arraignment, she's got like a full team of attorneys. Originally, she had state appointed public defender, but now she's got, I mean, I think like 5 attorneys. So yeah, they are going to need a motive. As a salesperson, I just immediately go to, did she lose a commission or something? Yeah, no one is safe anymore. When this happened, everything in Iowa changed with open houses. They, the builder said no more doing them alone. It is scary. I mean, you're there and just people coming in. It's a little crazy. My pup listen says, heard about it. It's horrific. Driven and very pretty young lady with her entire life ahead of her. I know. It's awful. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I've turned on closed captions.
Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Coleman McAllister presiding.
Thank you for your courtesy. You may be seated.
Yes. So the victim who was shot, Ashley Okland, she was 27, and then Kristin Ramsey, who's alleged in this, would have been correct, 38. Thanks, Top Cat. So she's 53 now.
We will open our record. We're here in case number FECR 051688.
And just real quick, we're watching the arraignment. That was just on Friday, April 10th. So just a few days ago.
State of Iowa versus Kristin Ramsey. Ms. Ramsey is here today in person with her counsels of record, Mr. Parrish, Mr. Brandon Brown, Ms. Westhoff Gentry. The state likewise appears here today through their counsel of record, the county attorney, Mr. Schultz, the assistant county attorney, Ms. Loving, and Mr. Brown, who appears here as well from the Iowa Attorney General's office. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a large crowd here today. And so I want to start by saying that we are here today to conduct a hearing.
So yeah, what's crazy is, so she was arrested March 17th of 2026, so just last month. And she's been in jail ever since. This is her arraignment. And they're going to have a lot of character witnesses that are testifying that she would never do anything like this. And they're trying to get her bond lowered. And they're saying they haven't seen any discovery. So nobody really seems to understand. There's only just been a grand jury indictment. So we're going to all find out.
And the outcome of this hearing, the court recognizes, is important to all concerned. As presiding judge, it's my duty today to ensure that this hearing is conducted with dignity and respect, so that each side, when they leave this courtroom, can say after the hearing has been held that a fair hearing was held. Therefore, let me say at the outset to the members of the audience, though this is a public courtroom and a public hearing, justice dictates that there be no disruption from anybody here that could affect the outcome or which could prejudice either side. Therefore, to ensure a fair hearing, I'm going to put the following rules of decorum in place.
I love this. So if you saw my short that I posted today, I mean, this guy is definitely I don't even know his name, this judge. He is taking command of his courtroom, and it looks like a very formal old court there. So I don't know anything about the gun. I mean, I know they had seized some before or found some in a search warrant years ago, but we don't know. We don't know anything. So we'll find out.
Number one, upon entering or leaving the courtroom, please do so quietly so as not to interfere with these proceedings. If you have a seat, please remain seated unless you are entering or leaving the courtroom.
Look at it. It's packed
Do
in
not
there.
converse in audio.
If you're just listening, I mean, the courtroom is packed. There's not an empty seat. It's got like sconces on the wall. Looks like it overlooks. I don't know if there's water out there or not, but except for those benches, good Lord, they're like shredded.
Tones while court is in session so that you can be heard by the.
This is in Des Moines, Iowa. And I'm going to tell y'all, I had to go there many years ago. Well, like 8 years ago for work. And I didn't know what to expect. And it's a really neat town.
Court of the parties, because that would distract from these proceedings here today. No outbursts by any person will be tolerated. And if there are any outbursts, they will be dealt with immediately by the court, and any offending party will be removed from the courtroom. I think the easiest way to convey what I mean is that I expect you all to conduct yourself in the same manner that you would want people to conduct themselves if you were a party to this case. Now, I will not repeat this going forward, and I expect to know that you will each conduct yourself accordingly. With that, let's proceed to the hearing that is before the court today. Before we came into open court, the defendant filed a written arraignment, which the court has reviewed, and I will enter a not guilty plea as set forth in the written arraignment in the record. The defendant has waived her right to a speedy trial.
Oh, she waived her right to a speedy trial. Interesting. Here for today, ask, is it unusual so many in a courtroom for an arraignment? Normally, I would say yes, but this has been a cold case. So I have a feeling that's what's going on.
So the first item of business will be to pick a trial date. And so, Mr. Schultz, I'll turn to you first. What do you propose as a trial date?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we expect discovery to be lengthy in this matter. We believe that it'll take the defense, we expect some time to be able to get through that. And so I don't know if we can go off the record, Your Honor, and talk to defense and see if we can come up with a mutual date.
Very well. If that's acceptable to the parties, when we take a recess, we'll see if we can come up with a date. Mr. Parrish, is that acceptable to you and your client?
Yes, Your Honor, that is acceptable.
Very well. Then we'll handle that before we conclude today. And after I hear the input of the parties, we'll set a trial date and the next court proceeding in this case. There are two other matters the court needs to hear and decide. The first I want to address is the defendant's motion, which has been filed, I believe, on April the 8th. Excuse me, that was the resistance was filed on April 8th. The original motion was filed on March the 19th. The motion is the defense motion to quash the search warrant and for a protective order. Mr. Parrish, I understand that you are the one who's going to be arguing that motion. Is that right, sir?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And Mr. Parrish, I appreciate the courtesy, but you can be seated, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Parrish, I would turn it over to you.
Mr. Parrish, I think, is like the Morgan Freeman of Iowa. I really enjoyed watching and listening to him today.
For any record you want to make in support of your motion.
Judge, with that motion, as the court is aware, we filed an exhibit from an expert witness. Mr. Schultz and I had some initial discussions about that. It's the phone, Your Honor, which we did not identify, but it is the phone that was taken in 2026. In that phone, according to our expert's opinion, I think Iowa Forensics is the company.
And Your Honor, I would object just for the fact that we're going to be discussing an exhibit that was provided past the deadline. With the court had done an original order stating that the parties needed to submit exhibits by the 8th. The state didn't see this exhibit till today. And so I'd ask that we strike the exhibit from the hearing today, Your Honor.
Your response, Mr. Parrish?
Well, I thought our off-the-record discussion and the prior discussion, I can limit my argument solely to the prior discussion that Mr. Schultz and I have had about it. Your Honor, it's your discretion as to whether or not you think this exhibit will give you some guidance in the decision. I think it's a common sense type of exhibit. He doesn't go into any details about the specific phone. So I don't think that's the issue, but I think we all have common sense that your phone might have what you call personal information, such as communications with counsel. Second of all, it would have information related to medical records. I get all of my medical records on my portal, on my phone, and I think most people do nowadays. So it's that type of information that we believe should be restricted.
So they're fighting, trying to get her phone, I guess, thrown out or not in evidence because it's got personal stuff on there, which, okay, whatever. But you think about this, if it's been almost 15 years, there's no telling. I mean, imagine the Google searches and things. We'll find out. So good evening. I'm going to put on the banner what this is so people know. This is in Des Moines, Iowa. This was on Friday, April 10th, and it is an arraignment for Kristin Ramsey, who has been charged in a murder from 2011 of a real estate agent who was 27 at the time.
Specifically addressing the issue of whether or not it should be late or not, I'm not sure the state has filed any exhibits. Mr. Schultz told me as late as last night, they did not plan to file any exhibits.
Mr. Parrish, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me just deal with this exhibit issue first, and we'll give you a chance to make your argument. So, Mr. Parrish, just so I understand, are you offering the exhibit or not?
Yes, we believe the exhibit should be presented. I think the court in its discretion to see whether or not it is informative to the court as to what type of information might be private. But I'm sure with the number of cases I've handled in this area, I can make a professional statement. But we think the exhibit ought to be accepted by the court. The state has a copy of it. They can review it. They can determine whether or not they see something that's objectionable about it. We believe it at that, Judge.
Mr. Schultz, just so I understand, you're not asking to continue the hearing, you're just asking to exclude the exhibit, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so tell me what the reason is for the exclusion?
Well, Your Honor, the court had entered an order that we exchange exhibits prior to the hearing. I believe they need to be exchanged and filed by Wednesday of this week at 4:30. That was not done in this case. This exhibit was filed this morning. It doesn't provide us an opportunity to really respond to it other than to verbally, I guess, get into it. We don't have our own expert now to rebut anything that Mr. Parrish is stating. I'd ask the court to strike it, and if not, then give it limited weight.
So I guess that's why I asked the question about the continuance. You're not asking for additional time to hire your own expert to counter the exhibit, is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor. We're not asking for continuance.
Very well. Well, the court hasn't seen the exhibit, so Mr. Parrish, I'm going to reserve ruling as to whether or not I consider the exhibit because I haven't had a chance to review it, but I will admit it into evidence. The question is going to become whether or not the court gives consideration to it. So with that understanding, Exhibit A is admitted.
I appreciate that, Judge. Now, I would say not arguing the exhibit, what it goes to. We have to first of all determine what type of phone our client had in their possession that was seized. Mr. Schultz and I had a lengthy conversation in his office about what information may be private and what information might be subject to their access. I will say this, we have no issue with the access to the information that the state is seeking, because I think we discussed whether or not we would be actually asking for what's called a protective order with regard to privacy matters, or whether or not there would be information that the state feels might be important. So I would say, Judge, it's really a common sense application to this. I've discussed how in the past judges have handled this matter, which they've said, this is certain information in federal court is handled by, they will do what they call a taint team. That taint team will look at that information. They will decide, well, is it attorney-client privilege?
Okay, trivia question for all you food truck gang people. Where else have we seen a taint team? That was in Donna's delayed trial. That was when she was wanting to go ahead and Dan Rashbaum had to step aside, and they were trying to figure out if Alex, the other attorney brought in, had been walled off, and they kept talking about the taint team.
Is it medical records coming from a certain doctor? Is it her son's medical records that would be irrelevant to anything? Or the conversation, all the privileged areas such as spousal privilege, that is protected. We don't think the state in their initial warrant, and I believe Mr. Schultz has probably indicated, they have not actually issued the warrant yet. And I get that because I believe he indicated he was going to hold up until you would give us some direction as to how that should be handled. I will tell you from my experience, how we've handled it before, either with the tape team, which is just automatic in federal court. In state court, a few state court judges have said, okay, let an independent examiner have it as opposed to the DCI. My last experience was with the DCI, where the DCI had actually seized the phone, asked the judge for a warrant, and there was private information on that phone, and the judge assigned an independent forensic examiner to look at it to exclude. Under what's called the Cellbrite software download, in that instance, they download everything. They just put it on a software, everything goes into it. So that means that with regard to Ms. Ramsey's phone, all her private information would go to the government without any of the protected orders. So all we're saying is, I think we can work out an agreement with them where if they wanted to, we could say, okay, this is excluded. But we would want our expert there watching that download to make sure that private information is excluded. Clearly, they have a right to some of the information, and that might be on it, may be relevant to them. I think they're entitled to get it. But a private protected information under the protected area that is statutory in Iowa, they're not entitled to have it without a specific request to you.
Does that conclude your argument, Mr.
It does,
Perry?
Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well. Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, just for the record, to be clear, search warrants are secret, and they're secret for a reason. But I will clarify, because I want to clarify the record. Search warrant was originally done, which allowed us to seize electronics, including the phone of the defendant. Another search warrant was issued, but not executed, because we are waiting to see what this court is going to do. And so I want to be clear on that point. It's not something we would normally argue about, because these are usually secret. But in this case, since it's being discussed today, I want to be clear on that.
Did he just say there's another search warrant that they haven't executed yet because they're waiting to see how this goes? That's kind of interesting, isn't it? I'm guessing she had no idea this is coming 15 years ago. I mean, did they just knock on her door? Probably.
You know, the reason we have search warrants is to protect.
Good question. Kristen says, did she confess to the crime on her phone or email? No. Her attorneys act like they have no discovery, and you'll see, but nobody really knows. The newest evidence is a witness that's come forward.
The rights of citizens under the Fourth Amendment.
And by witness, I think it might be the neighbor who heard something.
Amendment of the Constitution. And
Rosie, how did who find out? I guess a cold case team has been publicly trying to make this case, aware, bring it in the news, and probably, come forward, say something.
Article 1, Section 8 of the Iowa Constitution. It protects us from unlawful seizures. It also protects our right to privacy. But the reason we have a search warrant is to balance those rights with the interest that the state has in order to collect evidence when a crime is committed. And so, to me, when I look at when I look at the rules of criminal procedure, there's no rule that allows the court to create boundaries on a search warrant or after the fact. The court actually, there's a process in place under the rules that allows the court to look at the evidence that's presented, weight the statements from law enforcement, from probable cause, and then make a determination on whether to sign the warrant or not. And that is the balance that's struck under the law to protect the rights of citizens, but also protect the interest of the state in looking for evidence and investigating evidence of a crime. To me, what the defense is asking is that if I were to show up to a house with a search warrant that's been lawfully entered, that a defendant and their attorney can stand at the door and say, wait, you can't search the house. You have to, you can only search this room or that room or that room, and that's not what's in the warrant. The way the law works and has been working for hundreds of years is it provides protection for the defense, for the defendant, if there's something illegally searched or obtained, to have a search, sorry, having a brain fart, Your Honor, to file a motion to suppress and to suppress the evidence. And that is what, in this case, that should happen. The defense shouldn't be able to stop the state from going in. If they go into the house and find evidence that's relevant, that's not in the search warrant, they're required to go back to the court and apply for another search warrant. And it'd be no different in the case of a cell phone. If we were to go through the cell phone and find something that wasn't in the parameters that the court signed in the search warrant, we would be required to come back to the court with another search warrant to search for the items that are relevant. If something is privileged, then the court will make that determination after the fact through a motion to suppress, saying that the state's not allowed to use that evidence. And that there's no case law, there's no rules in criminal procedure that allow for the court to put boundaries after the search warrant has been signed. And so in this case, Your Honor, we're asking the court to allow us to execute the search warrant and any future search warrant that we may ask for in the future, to allow us to do the investigation that.
I can't imagine that a judge would deny that, like a search warrant. I mean, I totally hear what he's saying. You don't know what you want until you go in there and see. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Top Cat, spousal privilege. You think the suspect's husband could have a part in it? You never know. Maybe they want that person's phone too.
We are allowed to do under the law. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Schultz, what's your response to the defense's argument that perhaps this phone contains attorney-client privilege? While I agree that's an evidentiary privilege, but still, if there was attorney-client privilege on this device, you wouldn't be asking for that, would you?
We would not be, and it's not, and it wouldn't be inside the search warrant. And so if the police officers were to run into that, they would skip over it because it's not part of the search warrant, Your Honor. And that's how it's done in every other case in the state, and that's how it's always been done. We are creating a legal fiction, in my opinion, to allow defense to attack the investigation before we even know. And it's not allowed under federal rules, and it's not allowed under our state rules.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Is there anything else you'd like to make part of the record regarding this motion?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Parrish, since it's your motion, I'll give you the last word on the motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I refer the state to Raleigh v. California.
And Mr. Parrish, I appreciate courtesy.
It's just an old habit I can't break, Judge. I appreciate it. Yes, I would refer the state to Raleigh v. California.
Isn't he a character? So I guess the judge has told him they don't have to stand up. Hey, Ms. Poffles, good to see you.
It was the first United States Supreme Court case to deal with it. And then all these cases have come down since that time. I think your question was spot on. What if there's attorney-client? So does the state then have a right to go in, pull up that attorney-client stuff, let the DCI look at it, and then says, oh man, look what we got. But also we got another unique factor in this case. It's 15 years old, Judge. What stuff they're looking for is 2026. So part of our issue is going to be, well, where's the data from the phone from 2011, first of all? Did you go in there and spoil it? We don't know yet because they haven't given us that information. But also in 2026, they're asking for information. It's kind of like the other day when they were digging in the backyard in 2026 related to information from 2011. So Riley v. California is kind of the seminal case where the United States Supreme Court said, hey, phones are just like rooms, as has been eloquently described by Mr. Schultz. So what the Supreme Court has said, you got to be careful. You got to go get a warrant because they used to search them without warrants, as you probably know, Your Honor. But now.
Murder by Maestro says, this guy's cute. I hope I don't grow to hate him. I know. I'm with you. Of course, we hope he's still alive by the trial. I mean, I think it's going to be a while. I mean, I would guess at least a year and a half.
That you have these cell phones, you just can't go into them. Every case, Judge, I have been involved in federal court where that issue has come up. They have a taint team. Now, I know this is not federal court. This is state court. In state court, every motion we file for a protective order says this. It's not super complicated. It just says, look, if you get information that is private, and you can't see it if it's a Cellbrite download, that's why they won't talk about it, because they know the Cellbrite download downloads everything. They don't have any eyes to see attorney-client privilege, medical records, stuff like that. That's why it's so important, Your Honor, for you to take a look at that. And if necessary, Mr. Schultz feels he needs an expert, we're happy to debate it, but we're happy to give him everything he's entitled to. We just don't want to give him our client's medical records or conversation with her spouse, but conversation with, if it's a priest or minister, they're not entitled to get it. Now, there may be certain circumstances that they could get this under, but not on some general warrants that we're going to go on a search of her cell phone.
Hey, mister, you said this defense attorney is one of the best in the state of Iowa. Well, I think it's interesting because when they arrested her, she claimed she was indigent and needed a state-appointed attorney. She filed a financial affidavit stating that. And then now she's got this whole team of Bulldog attorneys. So maybe she's had some friends and family. Yeah, we should see if there's a GoFundMe or something.
I wouldn't want people to have my cell phone because it has every medical record I've ever.
Not because I want to donate, just because I'm curious. He said, funny, I don't want to use them to have my phone. It's got my medical records. Okay. I mean, to log into a portal, you need your password.
Head on it. And that's the same thing that Ms. Ramsey is entitled to protect. So I think it's an easy solution, Your Honor. That's all I would say.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Briefly, go ahead.
Okay, so Christina, this is just the arraignment. Kristen was just arrested for this murder 15 years ago. Kristen is now 53. So she would have been, 38 at the time? The victim was 27 at the time. And it's been a cold case. So this is her arraignment. And they're trying, she's got a $2 million cash only bond. So they're trying to get her out of jail while they prepare for trial. They haven't even set a trial date yet. Her attorneys haven't even seen the discovery yet.
I would just ask the court to look at our brief that we filed.
I have.
And I do want to point out that these privileges are testimonial privileges.
I understand, counsel, your position.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Parrish, anything else?
No, Your Honor. Thank you so much.
Mr. Parrish, I would like the benefit of having you to submit a proposed order, with language that you propose. That doesn't mean I'm going to grant it, but I want to see the parameters of what you're requesting specifically. And counsel, once he does that, you certainly can file any proposed response that you'd like, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Very well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, the next matter of business today is the last matter of business, and that's the defendant's motion for bond review. Mr. Brown, I understand you're going to be presenting the evidence on that. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Argument. We don't have witnesses, but yes.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I forgot there was two Mr. Browns. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were, I saw you were looking at, but.
So one of the prosecutors' last name is Brown, and one of the defense attorneys' last name is Brown.
We are not related.
Fair enough.
So.
Mr. Brandon Brown, excuse me. If you are ready to present evidence, you may do so.
Your Honor, before we present evidence, do you have a problem if we deal with the issue?
Okay, no, Michelle, nobody has been arrested. It's been 15 years. So they did talk to her back then, but there were no arrests made. And then a little over a year ago, they got new people on the cold case team, right? Things advance, things happen, It's different now, isn't it, Kristen?
First of all, of the nature of the offense, and then in my opening to the court, and then Mr. Brown then would deal with witnesses. If you want me to deal with it afterwards, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, here's what I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear all the evidence to be offered. It sounds like the state does not have any evidence. Then I'd like to hear the arguments of counsel regarding what you believe the court should do, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. You don't mind us splitting that portion of it?
No.
Because we won't get into the nature of the offense with the witnesses. Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate that.
Mr. Brandon Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. The court is well aware of the factors it must consider when.
Mr. Brown, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I'd like to hear the evidence first.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a brief summary of what we'll expect from our witnesses.
I don't need to hear that. Just
Okay.
present the evidence.
Fair enough. We would call our first witness then, Kristin Williamson, Your Honor.
Okay.
Well, you want witnesses separated, Your Honor? They have not asked for it. Do you want witnesses?
That's up to the parties.
And I'm just thinking about this, like getting arrested and them calling all my friends from high school to come testify. Wow. Yeah, Kristen, you said Kristen. Oh, two Kristens. They call her Chrissy, by the way. She goes by Chrissy. She was seen pacing outside after the murder. I bet she ran her mouth to somebody. Yeah, that's right, Maestro. If it wasn't for our own Allison Galvani, I think there's no justice left in the system, right? Cold cases, things can happen. Yeah, I agree, Louisa. But Chrissy looks humble and terrified.
That's fine.
Are you okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Ma'am, if you come forward, and when you're ready, face me and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Ma'am, that microphone in front of you, you can move your chair to get a little closer. If you could make sure to speak into it so we can all hear you, that would be appreciated by the court. Counsel, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am. Would you mind stating your name first and last and spell them for the record?
Kristin Williamson, KristiWilliamson.
Ms. Williamson, do you reside here in the state of Iowa?
I do.
Where do you live?
Osceola.
And do you reside in Osceola with anyone?
My husband.
Okay, just one quick second.
At some point during that time period that said, never, never, never give up.
I did.
And your parents would sometimes put that in the emails back to you, correct?
Yes.
Never, never, never give up. It's different now, isn't it?
I'm Leslie B, never lucky, that was.
Okay, so yes, that is my necklace. And I got it on Amazon, and Christina just saw me take it off. But y'all, I mean, it's not gold. If I wear it nonstop, it'll be green by Friday. So never, never give up. And I'm also wearing my indictment watch t-shirt. Okay, that was the commercial.
Husband? Okay, sorry. Okay,
Are you currently employed?
yes.
In terms of the length of employment, how long have you been gainfully employed, ma'am?
Since I was 16.
And do you have any criminal history?
No.
Can you tell the court how you know Kristin Ramsey?
Chrissy and I went to school together. She came in 6th grade.
Okay. And what school did you go to?
Woodward Granger.
And can you tell the court generally what size of class would you have at Woodward Granger?
We had a very small class. I would say 20 to 25.
In a small class like that, I suspect that the circle of friends is all pretty close. Is that fair to say?
Very much so.
And having a small class size like that, not only do you get to know your classmates as friends, but I suspect you also get to know their family as well. Is that correct?
Yes,
Do you know Chrissy's family?
I do.
Can you tell the court a little bit about Chrissy's family?
They're good people. Throughout school, we always did different things. We had slumber parties, that sort of thing. And going over to Chrissy's house was always fun. It felt like home. She had several cats and a dog, Duncan. Her siblings were great. Chris and Julie were great. Good people.
Did you always feel welcome in their home?
Always. It felt like home.
You always felt safe at their home?
Always.
Now, I understand you currently live in Osceola. Is that correct?
I do.
When is the last time y'all saw a side ponytail like that? I remember that was really big years ago. I'm not saying it looks bad. I just hadn't seen one.
And up till Chrissy's time of arrest, she was in Woodward. Is that your understanding?
Right.
Now, you had told the court that you had went to school with Chrissy until graduation. Have you kept in contact with Chrissy at all since graduation?
Through social media, her mom, through town people.
Okay. But while you were in school, would you agree that you knew her through middle school, junior high, and high school, those critical periods where character development and personality development were occurring?
Yes.
Can you tell the court a little bit about Chrissy's character that she exhibited as you knew her and as she developed it through those important developmental years?
She was a sweet person from day one, 6th grade. Very good, caring, compassionate, selfless person. She would do anything for anyone.
Did she have a lot of friends?
She did. Everyone liked her.
She got along with everybody, is that correct?
She did.
What kind of activities would
Well, my God, if she got along with everybody in 6th grade, there's no way she did this. I'm betting this lady normally wears her hair down, and the attorneys were like, hey, can you pull it back so it looks more tame? I mean, these people get coached on everything from jewelry, what color to wear, everything.
did you do with Chrissy while you knew her in school?
School things, of course. I think we were 7th grade basketball cheerleaders. I think we were only 2 at that time. And then in senior year, we were on the competition squad.
Tell the court a little bit about that.
It was a group of 10 girls, and Chrissy was a co-captain. That was probably the funnest 2 years of my life. We did a lot of things for that group.
This reminds me of Donna's sentencing when didn't somebody write her a letter about when they came to the school and Donna was really nice? There was something like that.
We qualified for a national cheerleading championship in Anaheim, California. We all went, and parents went. My parents went. Had a great time, great memories.
Okay. In terms of how she acted outside of school, did you ever see any behavioral problems?
No.
How about in school? Did you observe any behavioral problems?
No.
Was Chrissy a positive person?
Always.
What would you say about her in terms of her compassion?
She was always caring, willing to help, no matter what, no matter who it was. Just always there, wanting to talk if you needed to talk. She'd make you laugh if you needed to laugh.
Did she? Go ahead.
Just a good person.
Did she take any leadership positions at any activities in school?
Right. She was the co-captain of cheerleading. And
Okay, so she's talking about 7th grade. This friend, I don't remember her name. They're talking about Chrissy, who's Kristin Ramsey, the defendant. Right now, she's 53. So the alleged murder or the murder that she's alleged to have done was 15 years ago, but her friend is testifying to her character. So they have lots of character witnesses.
And let's see, that's all I can think of right off the top of my head right at the moment. But a very well-respected person all throughout high school. Everybody wanted to be around her, liked her.
And her reputation through school?
Excellent.
Okay. What was she like in terms of trying to attain popularity? Did you observe anything along those lines?
She didn't try to be popular. She just was, because everybody liked her. She was a good person to be around.
Okay. Did you ever see any?
I mean, I know a lot of quote unquote kids that were good when we were in 7th grade. I can't say that they're still good now. Yeah, here for today, French braids. My aunt knew how to French braid. I always loved it when she could do my hair.
Evidence of bad character being exhibited by Chrissy?
No.
How was her temperament as you knew her throughout school?
She is probably the most even-tempered person I know. I have never seen this girl be angry, mad, or upset. Ever. Ever.
If I were to ask you, what was the worst thing that you ever saw Chrissy do, what would you say?
Well, traditionally, in high school, as cheerleaders of the football team, we may have TP'd the football players' houses. That is the worst I've ever seen.
Was Chrissy a helpful person?
Please.
Always.
Did she demonstrate?
She's saying the worst that she ever saw her do was toilet paper the football player's house.
Empathy for and care about people throughout school?
Yes.
Was she responsible?
Yes.
How so?
Well, she showed up every day for one. She was very loyal. You could count on her. She always did her schoolwork, of course. She was always there for cheerleading practice. Always, you could just depend on her.
Good attendance?
Good attendance.
She was invested in all of her activities?
Yep.
She took everything she did seriously?
Yes.
Okay. You said you knew her family, you spent time with her family. How would you describe her family in terms of their character and their
Very similar. Chris and Julie are awesome people, always have been.
Chris and Julie, like the Chrisleys. Oh my goodness. Andrew says they all loved me because my parents let me have the keg parties. That's hysterical. Welcome, coercive control. Thank you for joining. Happy you're here.
Very loving family, welcoming again, and well liked in the community. Very upstanding citizens.
Okay. Now you are aware Chrissy's been charged with the murder in the first degree. Is that right?
I am.
We've talked about that. You've read about that. You're aware of that?
Yes.
And even knowing that, you are here to offer your insight and your opinions about Chrissy to the court because you know that we're asking for her bond to be reduced. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Based on the characteristics and the values that you saw Chrissy develop and exhibit during middle school, junior high, and high school, do you think that Chrissy poses any reasonable danger to the community?
No.
Based on the characteristics and the values that you saw Chrissy develop and exhibit through middle school, junior high, and high school, do you feel that she would in any way flee or not show up for her required court appearances?
No.
Okay. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Thank you. Mrs. Williamson, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
We've never met before, correct?
I don't think so.
All right. You live in Osceola currently, is that right?
I do.
And how long have you lived there?
Oh, 23 years.
And what's your employment? What specifically do you do?
I work for the state of Iowa, and I schedule hearings, send out orders, file things.
Do you work for the court system or the clerk's office?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. So she worked for the court system. She might have access to some stuff, right? Andrew, her bail right now is $2 million cash.
Ms. Williamson, your day-to-day involvement with the defendant, Kristin Ramsey, was whenever you were much younger. Would that be true?
That is true.
Okay, so so middle school would have been like the early to mid 1980s. Would that be right?
Yeah.
And what year did you graduate from high school?
91.
Okay, and would the defendant have been in your class at Woodward?
Yes.
So she would have graduated in 91?
Yes.
And then your lives would have separated at that point. Would that be true?
True.
So you didn't have any regular contact with her after 1991. Would that be true?
Just through, the community. My mom still lives there. My sister still lives there. And I still have friends there.
So other people would tell you about things that the defendant might be doing.
Okay. If you got a call last month for somebody that you went to high school with, let's say you graduated in 1991, and they said, "Hey, Andrew, listen, Leslie's been charged with murder. I know you knew her. Last time you saw her was 91. Your mom lives near her now. Will you come testify in her murder trial?" I think I would, or not murder trial, excuse me, arraignment to her character. I think I would say, well, what's the evidence?
Things of that, correct?
Sure.
She wouldn't have consulted you on large life matters, would that be true?
No.
So anything that she would have been doing with her business, with real estate, she doesn't consult you about that, correctly?
No.
You don't have any conversation with her about business dealings, correct?
No.
Or her financial condition?
No.
Nothing along those lines?
No.
Has she ever asked you for a loan or asked you for any money or anything of that nature?
No.
All right. Prior to Kristin Ramsey being charged with murder in the first degree, when would have been the last time you would have had any communication with her?
Probably shortly after graduation, I would presume. I cannot think when the last time was, but I kept track of her. I think we kept track of each other. We just may not have spoke.
So if things would have changed with regard to her demeanor, her personality, things that she would have been involved with, you would not have had any direct knowledge of that, correct?
No.
Okay. Turquoise Kitten, thanks for the question. You said, do you know the marital status of each party at the time? Yes. So Kristin married a high school sweetheart in 1995, and they're still married. Very loyal. And the victim, Ashley Okland, she was 27. She was not married.
Are you aware of any drug use that Kristin Ramsey has engaged in?
No.
Anything that would relate to methamphetamine or marijuana?
No.
Would it surprise you if those drugs were in her presence?
Absolutely.
What about firearms? Did you ever see or know Kristin Ramsey to use a firearm?
No.
Would it surprise you if there's information that she had used a firearm in the past?
Yes.
Even if it would have been legally, would that be true?
Yeah, I would be surprised.
Wait, she'd be surprised if she had a firearm? Is that what she said? I gotta rewind.
Information that she had used a firearm in the past?
Yes.
Even if it would have been legally, would that be true?
Yeah, I would be surprised.
Weird. Yeah, true crime wifey. Can y'all imagine true crime wifey on the case, like researching somebody from high school what's her testify? I'd be like, yeah, don't call her because she's going to be researching for a while. Yeah, no, you'd be a great witness though.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Any redirect, counsel?
Just briefly, just so we're clear, the physical distance is why you no longer have any more contact with Chrissy. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
There was no falling out or anything?
No,
like that?
no, we just live separate lives.
No further questions. Thanks.
Ms. Williamson, you can return to your chair. Thank you. Please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Jean Grell.
Yeah, so Ashley was 27 and then Kristin was 38 at the time of the incident. So 11 years. So was it over a guy? I mean, Ashley Okland, beautiful, career really starting out great for a lady in her 20s. Was it over a real estate commission? We don't know.
Mr. Grell, sir, if you come forward, I'll swear you in when you're ready, sir. You would please raise your right hand. Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Please be seated.
Christina, that's hysterical. If they asked her, would you be surprised if she ever tried to smother someone with her pom-poms?
Mr. Grell, if you could likewise move your chair close to the microphone so you can speak into it so we can all be sure to hear you, I'd appreciate it. Counsel, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Will you please state your first and last name and spell them for the record, sir?
Yes, my given name is Eugene. That's E-U-G-E-N-E. The last name is spelled G-R-E-L-L.
And Mr. Grell, my understanding is that you are somewhat hearing impaired. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If there's at any point that I'm speaking too loud or not loud enough, would you please let me know?
I certainly will.
Okay. Do you currently live here in the state of Iowa?
Yes, I do.
And what town do you reside in?
I live in Woodward.
Okay. Are you currently employed, sir?
No, I am officially retired.
In terms of past employment, can you outline for the court what you've done over the course of your life?
Yes, I have a BA from Augustana University in Sioux Falls in education. I have an MS from Creighton University in Omaha in school administration.
And then in terms of employment?
My first job was in Southwest Iowa, and I was a teacher for 7 years with special needs children while I worked on my degree over at Creighton in school administration. Then I became a middle school principal, which you only do when you're young, I found out. I became unhappy with education at that stage in life, and so I opened my own restaurant in a small town in Southwest Iowa. My son, my wife, and I ran it. Then I was approached by a convenience store chain owned by the Kroger Corporation over in Omaha to come to work for them because I had both business experience and the educational background. And so I became a professional trainer, working with, first of all, store level employees. Then I moved up to building them an assistant manager training program, and finally doing seminars for the managers at the store level. When Kroger downsized in the late 1980s, I knew my job was going to go away. That's usually what happens when corporations downsize. And so I started looking for a job. I took a job down in Falls City, Nebraska, for only 1 year as their elementary principal. I guess the only way to put it is my wife and I could never get used to the Nebraska culture. And so I applied for a job and took a job up in Northwest Iowa, not too far from where I originally grew up. And in that school district, I was initially their elementary principal. Then when the school combined with the school district to the west of us, I became both the elementary principal and their curriculum coordinator.
And then, go ahead.
Yeah. I've done lots of things in my life. My wife...
This man seems like a crazy party animal. True Crime Wifey said, I'll bet Kristin Ramsey was the type of girl that put shaving cream in the hand of the first girl who fell asleep at a sleepover and then tickled her nose with a feather. Yeah. Do you remember putting a hand in a bowl of water and supposedly that would make the person wet, you know, their sleeping bag? I'm just saying I heard about that.
Was life flighted from Omaha, from Spencer, Iowa, to Omaha, and had 2 different types of transplants done. And so I retired at the young age of 53 to care for her the rest of her life. She lived 13 more years. And during that time, whenever she was medically stable, I then took part-time jobs. So I have worked for CPAs, a local firm, during their tax season. When they were done with me, then I would move on.
Yeah, so this is the arraignment that was on Friday, April 10th for Kristin Ramsey. She's been arrested and charged with murder of Ashley Okland. Murder was in April of 2011. And Ashley was a real estate agent doing an open house at some new townhomes. And the development was owned by Rutland Homes. And Kristin Ramsey worked for Rutland Homes as a sales manager.
Over and worked for both ACE and Hy-Vee as their garden center coordinator, manager, whatever you want to call it. I also worked for the county here in the auditor's office for the last time, this last past election, because first of all, my hearing is getting questionable, and because my age is advancing. So with them, I worked again during the entire election process, getting things set up. In fact, I'll head over and make sure they're online to do what they're supposed to be doing in the upcoming election in June.
God, this guy. Ooh. Brooklyn says he sounds like Donna's witness that needed a dentist Christmas Eve. Yeah, they're lifelong friends. Annie Cunningham's, what was it, partner? Is that what she called him?
How about volunteering? Are you doing volunteering as well?
Yes, my son tells me I have retired at least 12 times. He's probably a little shy on that. It's probably more than that. I have done social ministry for Mount Olivet Lutheran Church over in Perry, which is where I go to church and where one of the Ramsey members also attends. And social ministry involved a lot of things. We operate a bedding service out of the church, especially when the packing plant was still there. Tons of people being pulled in by Tyson who come with nothing. And so the church purchases bedding that they can check out. Then we started a co-op program with the Optimist Club in town. They now purchase the children's beds and the church purchases the adult beds. And then as part of that, I just went out to the other churches in the area. And so we did socks and underwear drives for the school. We did.
So why is he testifying about what he's done? So I guess we're supposed to go, oh, okay, well, if that's her friend, then she's good. I don't know. I'm just telling y'all, somebody called me, wanted me to come testify for someone that I hadn't talked to in 30 years. It's going to be a no for me.
Coat drives in the fall. I started a furniture bank and a donated storage space. Those types of activities in social ministry. I also help at the local Woodward Food Pantry after having worked at the Perry Food Pantry prior. I also did something called Harvest for the Hungry, where I went out through all of northern Dallas County and found people who had garden produce or field produce, and I delivered.
So, you know, it's really rare for a woman to murder another woman. And the gunshot, one was in the chest and one was in the face. Now, from research that I've done, just, you know, when you hear these psychologists and things on YouTube, that indicates that this person knew them. And there was also no evidence that Ashley, the victim, like tried to fight anything off. So that kind of makes you think, right, she knew the person.
For that to the food pantry. So,
And then while being in Woodward, did you get to know Kristin Ramsey and her family, Mr. Grell?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
He said, yeah, during your time in Woodward, did you get to know Kristin Ramsey and her family?
Yes, sir. When I and my wife moved to Woodward to be closer to our grandchildren who were living over in Granger, we moved into the lot where Chrissy's and Toby's house would have been prior to the tornado that came through in 2005. A builder had built a spec house there, and we bought that home. So we were actually neighbors across the street to them.
And what was the first occasion you had to meet Chrissy and her family?
From memory, it was that she and Toby came over and introduced themselves, as well as Toby's parents, because we were right across the street, kind of wanted to know who the new folks in town were. So
I wonder if Toby knew Ashley Okland. It's funny, y'all are all comparing him to one of Donna's friends. True Crime Wifey says Ronnie Gunnarsson, Christina Spare Rib Man, Top Cat, another Dr. Graber. Yeah.
And for the record, Toby is Chrissy's husband. Is that correct?
That's correct. Sorry, I should have explained.
That's okay. And then Toby's parents also are your neighbors across the street. Is that right?
His mom still lives there.
John, is this another Mormon case? He doesn't have the Mormon haircut, though. You know what I'm talking about? The, like, what do y'all call that? I don't know what you call it. The tight haircut.
His dad's across town now. But yeah.
Okay. So how long then have you known Chrissy and her family?
We moved in October of 2007. So give or take about 18 years.
And during that roughly 18-year period of time, you've been their neighbor right across the street?
That is correct, except for this final year because of the rising cost of property taxes and insurance on my home. I simply decided to move into an apartment. So this last year, I haven't been their neighbor.
Are you still in Woodward?
Oh, yes.
And when you were neighbors with the Ramseys for roughly 18 years, and I know it could be weather dependent, but how long or how often would you see the family?
Again, very seasonally in the summertime, all the time, because I'm in retirement, a gardener. So I'm either out in my garden or in my yard. And so they would be out caring for their lawn or things on the house. The dogs would be out running the lot. I sat out and read a great deal in the front yard. I don't know that for a fact, but
oh God, he's one of those neighbors that sits out and reads in the front yard. He is definitely, I bet, on the HOA board, you know, California Dream, and you were thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Whether they did or did not see me, but when my wife died in 2015, I often used what some of the members of my support group for grief suggestion. That's what's called cold therapy, where actually, and it was, she died in March. And so because of all of the flashbacks that I had caring for her and all the things that had to be done to her, I would go out and sit on the front steps, which faces their house, and in the cold with just basically a t-shirt on. It makes you slow down and takes your mind off of all these things that keep coming back. So,
Would you have conversations with Chrissy and Toby and Tanner throughout those years?
I call that across the fence. I have to say I'm very fortunate to have moved into the best of small town Iowa neighborhood. Just brief.
Well, Eugene, it's not so good now because your neighbor is incarcerated on murder charges. So I'm just saying, Christina, you think maybe Kristin didn't like Ashley having a pretty face? Yeah. I'm still thinking there's some real estate commission involved and maybe jealousy. That's what I'm guessing, but we don't know motive. But this is going to be interesting to watch this unfold in the months ahead.
With some examples, there's an older woman behind me who used to come over and swipe rhubarb out of my garden, and I caught up with her one day. Was not upset, but told her I would bring it over to her house. From that point on, she was insistent. No, she's somewhere between 80 and 90 years old, and she was insistent she was going to use her cane and get over there and get it. And I said, well, you help yourself. And then whenever her kids would show up, I would go over and say things to them like, well, your mom's been over stealing rhubarb again. So the neighbor directly behind me, her parents are older. She lived with them. Dad had Alzheimer's. And so she would ask me to come over and watch them.
Oh my God.
While she ran for medication or groceries, that kind of thing. The neighbor next to her, which is also behind me, scraped the alley, which the city general did not get done in time for me to get out when it was snowy to get over to my job at the CPA office.
What about the Ramsey family? It sounds like there was a lot of neighborly things being done. What about Chrissy or her family? What kind of neighborly things would they do?
Well, I guess the one that would stick out most in my mind, I mean, we talked across the street, not the fence, but this sticks out in my mind is Chrissy would often send Tanner, her son, over to scrape my front parking and the sidewalk up to my house. And I, of course, would come out with money and he would refuse it, which gave me an indication of what she was like. I'm an older person, not taking advantage of. And so my workaround for that was I knew when Tanner's birthday was because we lived beside him for so long. And so I'd stuff the money into a birthday card. And of course, he got it and Chrissy couldn't say a thing. So.
What kind of observations did you make about Chrissy and her character based on your experience of being her next door across the street neighbor for 18 years?
I would have to use words like humble, kind, caring, very mild-mannered person, meek, and very devoted to her family.
She raised a good son, Tanner, didn't she?
Oh my gosh.
So good that he dates her granddaughter now, right?
That's correct.
When did
Oh, wait, whoa. Kristin's son dates this man's granddaughter. Well, that's not helping things.
the two start dating?
When they reached high school, but Tanner and I have known each other a lot longer than that. I would have to tell you that this is very unusual for a young male, at least in my experience as an educator. Tanner would come up and sit beside me at activities where he was not directly involved and sit and just talk. And usually young men, from my experience, once they reach that middle school, high school age, you're the last thing that they want to have contact with. So
you would attend his sporting events though?
Yes, I attend all sporting events, all activities, but it would include things like, National Honor Society, those kinds of things too. Yeah, I'm a pretty loud person. And
wait, I'm a pretty loud person. John Smith, yes, they both had their realtor license.
So I sat up in the stands, and usually nobody wants to sit in front of me. And a lot of the parents at least in our district, will sit out in the outfield or they'll stand along the fences at football season because they want to be closer to the action. So yeah, during halftime or during in between innings, I would usually go out and give them a bad time, for lack of a better word, and stand and talk to them, and they would be saying, "Oh, we heard what you yelled at the referee," or whatever. So
Christy would be at all the baseball games, is that correct?
oh, both parents very, very supportive.
She'd
Yes.
be at all the football games, is that correct?
Yes.
Would you see Toby and Chrissy being involved at Halloween, handing out candy and the like in the neighborhood?
Oh, okay. Chrissy went to all her kids' games and handed out candy. So she's, you know who else did all those things? Donna.
He used to dress up. We were one of only a couple houses on that end of the street, and he'd be out there, giving the little ones a bad time, and then sending them over to my direction. So
Let me ask you, did you ever observe or notice any disturbances coming from the Ramsey home?
no, and back then I had my hearing, so no, I've never heard anything of that kind of nature.
Okay, and you know that Chrissy has been charged with first-degree murder, is that right?
I certainly do.
And again, you know that you're here to offer your insight and experiences and opinions based on what you observed of Chrissy over the 18 years you've lived next to her, because we've asked the court to reduce her bond. Is that right?
Yes, I do understand that.
Now, if the court were to grant our request and reduce her bond, would you have any reservations about Chrissy returning to your town, into the neighborhood where you lived for 18 years?
The best way to answer that is my grandchildren grew up in my son and daughter-in-law's house, and their babysitters were I and my wife. And as two educators, you don't get by with much. And if I knew something was going on in that home, she would not have been allowed to be there. I would have gone to my son and his wife, and then they would have said no.
Do you believe, based on your experiences and your observations of Chrissy over the last 18 years, that she poses a risk of harm to your community?
I'd have to say she's the last person in that town that I would think would be involved.
Okay, no other questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Grell, good afternoon. I don't think we've ever met. Is that correct?
We have never met, sir.
All right. You are a neighbor to the Ramseys. Is that right?
That was.
Or was?
For the first 17 years, yes.
Okay. When did you cease being a neighbor to the Ramseys?
I moved into the apartment in May of last year, so almost a year now.
Okay. And whenever you lived near the Ramseys, that would have been across the street. Is that correct?
Directly across the street. That's correct.
And your interactions with them would have been normally as a neighbor, most of it like out in the yard, see them on the street, things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yeah, around town, whatever it may be, or the sporting events or activities at school, correct?
So most, if not all of your interactions with Kristin Ramsey would have been in a public setting. Would that be true?
That's pretty much true.
You've never been in the Ramsey's home?
I think only once. When I moved, Tanner had taken an apartment off campus at the University of Iowa and needed a bed, and I was trying to get rid of a lot of stuff. And so
Okay, he lived across the street from them for 17 years, and he went into their house once, and he's up here testifying for her.
I helped them get the bed over to their house. That's about the only time I've been inside.
All right. So you've never been, other than that, you've never been in their home, correct?
That's correct.
Are you aware of any drugs in the Ramsey home?
No, I've never seen any evidence of that. And I worked with a lot of people in social
I
media.
understand. I'm just asking what you observed.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
And you wouldn't have observed any methamphetamine, wouldn't have observed any marijuana in their home?
So apparently, I think I read, did they find methamphetamine or marijuana? Taylor says 11 years later, but that's 15 years. 2 eyewitnesses that identified her directly after the murder, and she fled the scene hastily, but then immediately returned. That's what we're hearing.
Correct. Never observed either one of them using drugs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would it surprise you if those types of drugs were found in their home?
Yeah, it would surprise me based on, my interactions.
And are you aware that a number of firearms were in the Ramsey home?
I had no idea they had guns.
Yeah.
If you knew that Kristin Ramsey committed a murder, if you knew that, would your opinion of her change?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. That's not an evidence.
This is a character witness.
The objection is overruled. The witness can answer. It's a hypothetical.
Would you restate it for me, please?
If you knew that Kristin Ramsey committed a murder, would that change your opinion?
No, what I would have to say is.
That's all I'm asking, is whether or not that would change your opinion. You said no.
No, yeah, yeah.
It's a yes or no question.
All right, hang on. The witness can answer the question. Go ahead, sir.
What I would say is, as with many of the neighbors from all over Western Iowa, they would continue to be neighbors for life. It would not matter to me.
Any redirect, counsel?
No, no, thanks.
Mr. Grell, sir, you can return to your chair.
Yes, thank you.
Please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Julie Boyles.
Very well. You come forward, ma'am. When you're ready, I will swear you in, just like I've sworn the other people. So when you're ready, face me and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated. Because it appears you may be soft-spoken, I want to make sure you position that microphone, and if you need to move.
So we don't know the evidence. We just heard there's witnesses now, but I mean, her attorneys don't even have the discovery yet. So we shall see.
Your chair, please do so we can all be sure to hear you, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
When you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, will you please state your first and last name and spell them for the record?
Julie Boyles, Julieboyles. Okay. I'm sorry.
See, this lady, they told her to wear a pale pink cardigan.
How's that? Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, Andrew is telling us in the chat that he visits Betty Broderick, so we need the details, please.
And Ms. Boyles, you are Chrissy's mother, correct?
Yes.
Where do you presently live?
Johnston?
And are you married?
Yes.
How long have you been married, ma'am?
Since 1983.
And who is your husband?
Chris?
And Chris has been Chrissy's stepfather since 1983, then, is that correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your husband?
He's a pretty calm individual. He doesn't get riled up, doesn't make judgments. He's a lot like my dad.
What did he do for employment, ma'am?
He worked for the post office for 30 years.
Okay. Did Mr. Boyles serve in the military?
Yes.
Do you know where he served?
He was in the National Guard for 7 years.
Did your husband serve overseas?
Yes.
When would that have been?
He was in the Gulf War. So when that was?
How long was he overseas? Do you recall?
From December of 90 to May of 91.
And Chris took pride in being Chrissy's stepfather. Would you agree?
Yeah.
It sounds like when Chris was serving overseas, there was some concerns he may not make Chrissy's high school graduation.
That's right.
What happened?
Chris had a friend in his unit. It was based out of Perry. It was a transportation unit in Perry. And Ronnie had gotten sent home earlier, and he also was a pilot. And when Chris's transportation unit got into stateside and got to Missouri, Ronnie said he would go down and get Chris and fly him home to make sure he was home for Chrissy's graduation. But the weather wasn't good. So he drove down to get him and got him back home about an hour before graduation.
Chrissy and Chris have been close their lives, haven't they?
Yeah.
Are you employed, ma'am?
No, I'm retired.
What did you do prior to retirement?
I was the insurance and billing manager for a counseling clinic in Urbandale.
Okay. How long did you do that?
33 years.
Any criminal history?
No.
How about Chris, your husband? Any criminal history?
No.
Does Chrissy have siblings?
She has a brother, an older brother, a younger sister. She has a bonus brother and a bonus sister.
Where do those folks live, ma'am?
One brother lives in Madrid, one brother lives in Pleasantville, sister lives in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and the other sister lives in Minburn.
Has some of her friends and family turned out to support her for the bond review hearing?
Yeah, several.
Are they present behind her?
Yes.
Including Tanner, her son?
Yes.
Chris, your husband?
Yeah.
Toby, her husband?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Toby.
Toby's been in our home prior to.
Okay, they've got the camera on the defendant here, Kristin. So if you look back over her left shoulder, I think there's like a a young guy in a light purple shirt and a purple tie and a navy blazer. I think that might be her son, Tanner, that they're talking about. He looks like he's in his 20s. So this is his grandmother, or Chrissy's mom, that's testifying. Yeah, I think we lost Andrew. Too much Betty Broderick questions. What's a bonus sister? Basically like a stepsister. It's just, I don't know, whatever. But
he and Chrissy dating because he was friends with our two sons. And so it wasn't till Toby was a senior that, and Chrissy was a freshman, that they started dating.
And so Chrissy would have dated Toby.
do y'all see her blouse? That is a Corey Richens blouse.
Her freshman year? Is that right?
They went to his senior prom. She was a freshman.
Have they been together ever since?
Yes.
High school sweethearts?
Yes.
And Toby's family, do you know Toby's family?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Does Toby's family live in and around the same community where Chrissy and Toby live in Woodward?
Yeah, Jody lives just a block away with her family, and Shannon and Dan live in Granger with their family.
I might be wrong. It might be her son more directly behind her now that I'm looking at it.
One more person we haven't mentioned who is here today is Chrissy's grandfather. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Malin Conaway.
And that's your father.
Malin, Mahlon, Conaway, Conaway.
And he's here, right?
Yep, it's right out there.
How old is Chrissy's grandfather?
Dad will be 101 in August.
Can you tell the court a little bit about your father? He's lived a rather extraordinary life. Would you agree?
Yeah, he's pretty extraordinary. He's a very proud World War II veteran. He's received several medals. He's the 2024 Iowa veteran, VFW Veteran of the Year. He's received the French Legion of Honor. We have to call him Sir, but he's so well loved in Perry and so well known in Perry because of his service.
The French Medal of Honor, or the French Legion of Honor, is that the highest military honor that the French?
Yes, it is.
What did he receive that for? Do you know?
For his help with liberating France.
Okay. What did your father do after he returned?
After Dad came home from the war, he drove for Rouen Transport. I'm thinking Dad drove for 30 years. He's hard of hearing. He would correct me if he could hear me probably. But yeah, he was one of the first few that worked for John Rouen.
As Chrissy grew up in the home, you had pets around, is that right?
Oh yeah, we have a lot.
Your family members would come and go and play with her?
Yeah.
How would you describe her upbringing?
It was just a loving home. We care about each other. We're very close knit. We have a lot of fun together.
Chrissy, sounds like she was a cheerleader.
Yes.
Did she do anything else for extracurricular and co-curricular activities?
She danced.
Why are we talking about this? This lady's 53 years old. I'd want to know what she's doing as an adult. Andrew, thank you for sharing. My sister was briefly friends with Betty while in college, then went their separate ways, and the saga began. I reached out to Betty during the first trial, flew out, and her best friend and Dick. Well, interesting.
She was probably 5.
For how long?
It's amazing.
So she graduated from high school.
Well, was she a hard worker?
Yeah.
Did she keep jobs?
She did. She helped defray the costs of dance lessons by working and teaching kids in dance studio. She worked in the daycare in Granger. She worked for the marina, Sailorville Marina.
Did she get positive reviews from people she worked for?
Yes. Pam and Mike Finistad had the Granger daycare, and they also were the hosts for Chrissy and Toby's wedding. And Vern Eden owned the marina in Sailorville, and he told me several times that if everybody worked as hard as Chrissy, he wouldn't have any problems at Saul.
How would you describe Chrissy's character?
She's the most loving person that I know. She's caring. She's compassionate. She's considerate. She loves Tanner to the ends of the earth. She would do anything for him.
Did she have any enemies growing up?
No.
Did she ever have a rebellious streak growing up?
No,
Did she have a curfew when she lived at home?
we never.
Andrew, this lady on the stand is her mom. She probably is 73. But you think Kristin, the lady at the defendant's table crying, and by the way, she's shackled. There's a picture, and she's got a waist chain, and she's cuffed to that as well. Oh, Linda, good point. Don't forget, Suitcase Sarah was a straight A student in high school, allegedly. Very, very true. Yep, Top Cat. She was at the scene of the crime. Mm-hmm. Just an effing coincidence.
Did that to her because she always respected a good time to be in. 10:30, 11 o'clock, she was home. We didn't need to put a curfew on her.
Now, you lived in a small community, that's correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear anything from community members complaining about your daughter or anything along those lines?
No.
Did you ever even have to ground her
No.
while she lived with you? What kind of activities did you enjoy doing with Chrissy?
Well, probably one of the most fun things we did. We both loved the Eagles, and so we would go to Eagles concerts together.
Okay. Anything else?
We enjoyed the day after Thanksgiving, going shopping. We'd plan that whole day out. Back when the
We go have breakfast at IHOP and hit the TJ Maxx at 5 a.m. and then get to Wallet Mart.
Des Moines Register was big, and they had the big day after Thanksgiving newspaper. We'd plan our whole day. My mom would bring down her newspaper so we could have the Yonkers coupon out of there. And we had our delivery, so we had that one, and Chris had run over to the Quick Trip and get another paper. So when it was Annie and Chrissy and myself going shopping, we all had that $10 coupon we could spend.
Oh my God.
My understanding is you do not drink any alcohol, is that right?
No.
Your husband, Chris, does not drink any alcohol? Do you know the last time that you've ever seen Chrissy drink any alcohol?
I honestly can't remember.
I don't remember because she sticks to meth. I'm kidding. I don't know. Okay. This is all just joking.
Okay. Do you know whether Chrissy has ever used any illegal drugs or controlled substances to your knowledge?
No.
Well, why's the meth in the house? Supposedly, what I heard. Ruth Ann. Yeah, Sarah Boone said she excels at everything. That's right. And yeah, Wendy was valedictorian and a virgin.
Chrissy's son Tanner was born in 2015. Is that right?
Yes.
Now you, as a mother and a grandmother, had a
Louisa, we're making jokes about the Adelson family. We're not talking about Kristin. We talk about that.
very unique opportunity to observe Chrissy as a mom over Tanner at a very young age. Is that right?
That's right.
Why don't you tell the court about that?
Copacetic.
They lost their house in the tornado in Woodward. And so Tanner was 3 months old, and they lived with us along with their two dogs, and Jack and Junior. And we had 3 dogs, and we had 2 kitties, and so it was a full house.
How did Chrissy handle being a new mom, being displaced by a natural disaster like that?
She very calmly, very resilient. She would go to work, she'd come home, and she'd work on what she needed to gather for the insurance companies. She'd have to go through room by room and try to remember what was in each room and itemize. I mean, how many bobby pins did you have? I mean, it was just that kind of detailed, but she was.
Yeah, I just think True Crime Wifey says, where are the objections, relevance, where aren't at sentencing? I'm the only one thinking this is odd. It's just character witness. So I guess it's different. It is opinion. That's the only thing. I can't really say that I've seen many of these. Strange.
That was what she had to work on for her family to get back home to their home that they were trying to get built.
And as Tanner grew, how would you describe their relationship?
They're pretty tight. Tanner's like Chrissy. He's just a calm, straightforward, compassionate, caring. He will sit and talk, like Mr. Girl said, he'll just sit and talk with you, look you in the eye and have conversations with you. He's my dad's 100th birthday party last year.
I wonder if Toby, Kristin's husband, liked Ashley. You know, I don't know.
I had him meet my high school girlfriends that came from my dad's birthday party. And Tanner was just involved with them, talking to them like he had known them forever. He was interested in what they had to say. Chrissy's the same way, exactly the same way.
Was Chrissy involved in Tanner's activities throughout junior high and high school?
Oh yeah, she never missed anything.
What about fundraisers and things like that? Was she involved in those?
Yep.
Tell the court about that.
They had, the junior class raises money in Woodward for the senior prom, a junior senior prom, and also their senior trip when they become seniors, and the cap and gown. And so she would work the concession stands like other parents would to raise that money for their kids.
Tanner excelled not just athletically, but academically as well.
Yeah, he's a member of the National Honor Society.
Was he academic all conference for baseball and football?
Yes.
Did he receive scholarships coming out of high
Yes,
school?
he did. Yes, he did.
Who would Tanner attribute a lot of his success to?
Both his parents, both of them.
Is the family structured and responsible?
They are, and and Tanner grew up knowing that he needed to be responsible as well.
Now that Tanner's off to school, how has Chrissy's role as a mother changed? Have you seen that?
It was, like any parent sending their child off to college, it was tough to let him go. And Tanner is their whole life. And that void was gone. But I would tell her, it's just a change, and you're going to find a different avenue. You're going to enjoy this next chapter with Tanner going to college, and they have.
Tanner still comes home and visits?
Yes.
Does he bring all his laundry home?
Oh my, yeah. The last time he was home, he's smiling at me right now. The last time he was home, he brought, Chrissy was telling me, he brought all his laundry, even all his bedding, Mom. And I said, well, I know you love it. So,
She still enjoys taking care of it,
yeah,
right?
she does.
Now,
I would be thrilled if my son brought home his bedding, because that means we're going to wash it. Andrew says, anyone who lives in tornado or hurricane areas always video and take pictures and keep them in the bank vault. Yeah, or just upload it to the cloud, like Charlie's iPhone. Maestro says this is more like a deposition for a fraud case. Yeah, I don't understand this either. But
one of the requests we made to the court was to potentially appoint a custodian for Chrissy if she were to be released on bond in the community.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to serve as a custodian?
Yes.
Which would mean if Chrissy violates the terms and conditions, you would have to report that to the court. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes.
And if necessary, could Chrissy live with you if that
Yes.
were necessary? Okay. Based on you knowing Chrissy her whole life, do you have any reasons or concerns that Chrissy could pose harm to the community if she were released?
No.
I mean, they're asking her mom that question. I mean, come on. Coercive. Yeah. If they are clipping coupons and going to a Wallet Mart, no way she's a killer. Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to get her bond lowered from $2 million cash.
Do you think she would flee if
No.
she were released? I know one concern that the state raised in its resistance was she may harm herself. And I feel like you would be in the best position to discuss that and allay those concerns. Would you tell the court, from your perspective, whether that's a legitimate concern?
No, she would never, ever, ever do that to Tanner. She would never leave him.
Mm-hmm.
No other questions?
Cross-examination.
The state has no questions for Ms. Boyles.
Ms. Boyles, you can return to your chair as well. Does that conclude the evidence that the defense wishes to offer in support of the motion?
We would just formally move Exhibit A, which had roughly 70 plus pages of support letters, into the record if that hasn't been accepted yet, Your Honor.
Is there any objection to the exhibit, which is I think it's about 72 pages of support letters from community members on behalf of the defendant? Does the state object?
No, Your Honor.
That
Did they say 72 letters? Dang.
exhibit is admitted. Just to confirm again, the state does not intend to offer any evidence. Is that correct?
We do not have any witnesses or other evidence to offer. That's correct.
Your Honor, we have a professional statement to make at this time pursuant to what we discussed prior to the hearing starting with regard to.
And this is going to be separate than your argument. Is that right, sir?
It will, Judge.
Very well, then go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
John says those late night Walmart shoppers in PJs or gowns. You know what I do? I always, when I go to Walmart, which is about twice a year, I usually go during an Alabama game because I know that there won't be many people at Walmart. As an Auburn grad, I have to say that. Yes, Louisa, you're right. Stephanie Lazarus murdered a woman when young, and after that built a respectable career as a cop. She didn't bond out, though. Yep, it's true. Yeah, so if this was 15 years ago, I would think Tanner was like 5 or 6, if I did that right based on my math.
Counsel, Ms. Ramsey is 53. She's been employed for 14 years at the same job at Midland Title Escrow. And I would present this, Your Honor, the record should show as a professional statement. She's lived in Dallas County her entire life. She has no criminal record, one speeding ticket approximately 15 to 18 years ago. She's never lived out of state. She has few family members living out of state. She has taken vacations. The vacations have been in Florida. One was to visit with her grandfather, who had moved down there at one point, the gentleman who is the war veteran and hero. She and her husband would drive down to visit with them. Her health is good. As a matter of fact, when she was initially interviewed by the sheriff's office, which is a well-run jail, Your Honor, I want to, the gentleman in charge of it has done an outstanding job there. When she was given the sheet, they checked on her. She had no emotional drama to the extent that they felt she needed additional help. They did one interview, then they did an interview approximately 14 days later. She's had no disciplinary issues. As a matter of fact, in the 4 visits that Mr. Brown and I have gone there.
She's had no disciplinary issues in the jail, y'all, for 3 weeks. Good evening, Blue River. Hello, fellow cyber bullies. So I did find out that the person's name that runs that page that they've made me a wallpaper on, and they're calling us all out, their name is Ashton. Yeah, murder, you said, makes me wonder how Patrick Galvani got his bond all those years ago in the 80s, lowered from $2 million to $50,000, and it was for murder. Just, yeah, it is wild. You do wonder, like, what kind of data evidence they have now. So 2011 versus 2026, they could have cell phone stuff. I mean, we don't know, but I think this is going to be one to watch.
And just passing, the staff, which is an excellent staff, indicated she's had no issues there. She indicates she can follow any conditions of the bond that the court would set on her within the parameters of what we will discuss later. All the firearms have been removed from the home. That was directed by our office to have that accomplished if the court were to allow her to go back home with those conditions. She would work if a job became available. And I believe, Judge, that's all.
But and he say, if a job became available, Michelle said, how could you go on with your life after doing that? Well, I don't think it would be a fun life if you have a conscience. I mean, I imagine it's been pretty miserable. Michelle, I would end up self-snitching just by my behavior. I would never be able to act normal. I agree.
All the record that we would make at this time, and ask the court to accept that as a professional statement on behalf of, oh, thank you. She has no passport and has never had one.
Very well. Mr. Brown, do you have any questions for Mr. Parrish? Obviously, a professional statement is evidence, and you have the right to cross-examine if you wish.
I just have one point of clarification on employment, if I could.
You may.
Is the job that she had before she was arrested still available to her if she is released?
We don't think so. We've not explored that because we've been busy working on the this.
We don't think so. You know why? Because if you're indicted, it's going to be really hard to have a job, especially in a title company. But even if you're unindicted but a named co-conspirator, it's very hard to get a job.
Matter, but we've not explored that right now.
All right, thank you.
Very well. The court will accept Mr. Parrish's professional statement as evidence, and will consider it as part of the evidence presented here today. We have been going for almost an hour and a half, so I'm going to take a 15-minute recess. When we come back, I'll be hearing the arguments of counsel, starting with the defense, followed by the state. Then again, because the defense is the moving party, I'll give the defense the last word. So we'll be at recess for 15 minutes.
Thank you, Anna.
All right.
Thank you for the passport. Why it slipped in my mind.
You can see the shackle around her waist, sort of. All right, I'm going to forward it through this, but look how she's turned, like talking to her attorney. I just want to know how you go from being indigent to having a whole defense team. Oh, look over here, her attorney, this man, he's hilarious. He's talking with the prosecutors. All right. Millie says Stephanie Lazarus' parole was denied last year. She needed to rot behind bars. I agree. Yeah, I can't lie. Let me tell you what I did the other day. Speaking of Kroger, I went there and I ran in, and a lot of times they get like good seasonal plants, and they had some hanging baskets. And what I do is I buy those and then take the flowers out that are big and plant that in my pots. And when I got out to the car, I realized something was under one of the planters. It was like a $3 item. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't pay for it. I was like freaking out and I ran back in to pay for it. That's just how I am. I would feel like awful if I didn't do that. Yeah, she's got 3 attorneys. That's not cheap. My pup listens. Wonder if the speeding ticket was leaving a crime scene. That's a good one.
Court is now in session with the Honorable Judge Coleman McAllister presiding.
Coleman
You may be
McAllister.
seated. Before we turn to the arguments of the parties on the motion, I had an opportunity to discuss with the parties during our our next proceedings in this case. The parties have agreed and the court will approve the request to set trial for January 11th, 2027, January 11th, 2020.
On January 11, 2027. You know it's going to be way later than that. I mean, God, that's, what, 9 months? Yeah, she was, Nikki, she said she was indigent, but then a few days later, she had a whole private team.
7.
So somebody's paying, not her.
The next hearing I'm going to set in this case is a status conference for June 19th at 1:30, June 19th at 1:30. The court is setting that so I can touch base with the parties, see how the discovery or exchange of information is progressing, and so we can see if there's any further hearings that need to be held. So I will enter an order in writing in the next day or two, reducing that to writing of those future court dates.
Michelle, Nexter, there's an emoji. I have an emoji for Nexter.
Thank you for your patience, counsel. Mr. Parrish, when you're ready, sir, I'll hear your argument regarding your motion for bond review.
I am ready, Judge. May it please the court and counsel. Judge, if this is any guidance, I'm going to read from a transcript of proceeding in your courtroom in August of 2020, where there was a contested bond issue. And at one point, you pointed out to both counsel, one was Joe Chris, the other one was Jonathan Cowsey. You said, I would say that ultimately, whether or not these charges hold water will be the responsibility of the jury, not the court, at this stage of the proceedings. I understand that there's a factual dispute between the parties, and I'm not going to resolve that here now. That will be for the jury to resolve. And Judge, that's from a transcript I gave you the day at a Polk County matter, August 21st of 2020. And Judge, if that's your belief and philosophy, obviously we all change as time moves, but that's a pretty statement as to where we are in terms of this case, because you have seen the pleadings that have shown the incredible fight that we have on the facts. Now, whether or not they developed properly or developed in dispute from our discussions and where we are dealing with a case 15 years old where we all know there are incredible gaps. And from what we've been shown, there is nothing new, nothing. With that in mind, Judge, I'd like to address briefly the three factors. And I'm not going to dwell on the nature of the offense based upon your statement. The danger to the community, that's been addressed. As a matter of fact, in their cross-examination and in the failure to produce any exhibits or a single witness, and I know the burden's on us by preponderance, the state has not challenged that to any extent that should cause you to say, well, let's keep the bond where it is. It doesn't work. They would have to establish some way for you to believe we didn't meet our preponderance. The risk of flight, the factors, Judge, that should be considered. She's lived here. Ms. Ramsey lived here her whole life. Her family lives here. Her heart and soul resides in Woodward, Iowa. The trips that she's talked about, being out of state, not having a passport, having a strong familial connection, establishes that she's tied to this community. She has no criminal record, one speeding ticket.
It's pretty big not having a criminal record, but it's crazy to me that you could even make bail on a first-degree murder charge. I think they're wanting it dropped to $100,000.
That is significant because not only does it show something about her life, but also her character. I will talk briefly, very briefly, about the pleadings filed by the government in this case. Clearly, they're upsetting, but we have to respond to that. And I think we've done a decent job of responding. I will say this, though. One of the most distressing things to me about their pleading was the fact from earlier discussions, I was led to believe they had clearly acknowledged that Ms. Ramsey had nothing to do with the drugs in the house in 2011 when they had a search warrant, or 2026. If I'm wrong, that's...
So in 2011, they had a search warrant. That was the year of the murder. And there were drugs in the house, but they're saying she had nothing to do with them. It sounds like there might have been some in 2026. I don't know, though. Ruth Ann, you got a free pair of boots and you went around and paid almost $200 back, turned around. I would have done the same thing. Yeah. Honest A, but that's what we are.
Fine. But that's what we were led to believe. I will make a professional statement with regard to that. But if they are now saying that, and the firearms, let me make this statement, which I think is fascinating about the investigation to this matter that goes to the nature of the offense. In 2011, they saw firearms in the home. Did they tell you how many they seized? I'll tell you, 0. 2026, they went to the same home, to the home, and they claimed they saw firearms. How many did they seize? 0. We've told you in our professional statement that we've asked that the firearms be removed from the home. So that deals with this idea, which I think is the most troublesome aspect of the state's.
I wonder how many firearms they have in the home. I'm kind of wondering about Toby. I'd like to see Toby. Wonder if he was there. Julie, I like the dinosaur emoji.
Case about this is not a safe home for Ms. Ramsey to go back to. So we believe, Judge, that we've addressed those issues directly, but I was a little concerned, confused, and actually didn't understand their pleading on that issue. But a pleading doesn't make the case. If they thought it was an issue, they could have presented a witness or two, or a professional statement or so, but they can't, and they know they can't.
Yeah, I think she was a person of interest in 2011. Just sounds like there wasn't evidence. I mean, they saw her pacing outside the townhome. We'll learn more.
So, Judge, we would ask you to not consider those factors and allow her to be set up. And I think the terms that we have presented, Judge, and I know from our thoughts that you have ideas as to whether or not, let's say, other bond issues that have been issued in Dallas County, Polk County, other county, may not carry significance, but I think we battle that out also in our pleadings, and I, knowing you as I do, I know you've read it, so you know where that battle is. And I would just point out one factor, Judge, that is more general in terms than what I would call a tit for tat as to who gets out on bond. Those are factors that makes a case unique. What are the factors in this case? Well, one is that it's 15 years old and they've not presented one iota of physical or any other type of evidence to show that anything has changed except the name of the investigators.
Not one iota. That's what Donna said in her sentencing.
That's it. But also, what is important in this aspect is that we have presented what we believe is a case that shows the first part of her life. And people say, well, character is formed at 5 years, right? That's what we say. That's what we believe. That's why we read our kids their children books, because we want to impact that character. Well, the state cross-examined Ms. Witt by saying, well, you stopped seeing her. But at 12th grade, Judge, we all know most of the significant characters in a person's life is established. Let's go further. What was the next aspect? A person who lives across the street, and of course their only cross-examination was, well, you only saw her as a neighbor for 17 years. If I don't know my neighbors for 17 years, Judge, and what they're doing and what the car is going back and forth, I don't know much. So I ask you to consider that as a factor. This gentleman who was a principal, who knew people well, who interacted, who talked to.
I do like this attorney. He's got nice inflection and everything. Yeah, Louisa Donna said that. Where is the evidence? Not one iota of evidence. I'm working on a video. It'll be out soon.
About Tanner and what he was like, and going
Good night,
to his
true
game
crime
and talking
wifey.
to him like he was concerned and involved in the conversation. That's pretty unique, Your Honor. And that becomes because of his mom and his dad. Now, what about the last person, her mother? The father of this great war veteran who's sitting back there, and I went back to talk to him, and I said, you're one of my heroes. My dad was in World War II, but he was stationed in Africa during World War II. And he came to my office and I said, I just want to take my picture with you and share what you did. And in his comment to me, he said, I said, were you afraid? Were you fearful? He says, only once when I got there, and after I left, my fear.
So her 100-year-old grandfather came to his office with his checkbook, I bet, or a reverse mortgage on his home.
Was no longer there. But I said, I researched you and I could not believe the feats that you had fighting for France. And he was the same young man. I make that point to say, same person who's sitting back there, who she used to go visit in the summer, Ms. Ramsey would go visit in the summer with her husband to keep a relationship with him, and the one who now goes back and forth to his house when she was out, because she loves him and he loves her back. So that is significant. It shows the incredibly strong family ties. We put a map in our exhibit, Judge, that shows how these folks live in relationship to each other, all in close contact. Even a friend from high school, they talked about how they still stay in contact. Her gentle nature, how she responds to things, how she reacts, even at the jail, how she has had no disciplinary action over there. It's also important to show a little bit about her character, Your Honor. I'm not going to dwell on a lot of this, and a lot of this, Judge, I think, in terms of bond issues and stuff, this court understands. We did not present Ms. Gentry because obviously she was going to make a professional statement about Golan Park. That's out of Dallas County, but I don't think that's necessary to do. But let's talk, Judge, just briefly in my argument about the strength of the evidence. I will say this, Your Honor. You've tried a lot of cases in Iowa. So have I. In 66 of the 99 counties, I have tried cases. A lot of them first-degree murder cases. And in these murder cases, Your Honor, in state court, this is the first time I've ever walked in where there's a grand jury been assembled. The first time. And when I read the transcript over 2 weekends and read it again, I was stunned. But it doesn't matter whether I'm stunned or not. When I heard the officers say, hey, we've charged somebody, we got a lot of work to do, I was stunned again. And I don't even watch TV that much, it just popped up. So that tells you, Judge, they have problem. When the state tells me, well, this is all we got, this is our entire case. When you read it, Judge, with your experience and with the experience that we have here, we understand there are issues. You don't wait 15 years and then you say, okay, let's make a go of it. But that's not your decision right now, I agree. That's not what you have to decide. What you have to decide, is she gonna run? There's just no place to go. She doesn't even have a passport. Is she a danger? 17-year-old neighbor says, no. What does her mom say? No. Is she gonna harm herself? No. If there was some evidence of that, Judge, during that evaluation that she had when she first got to the jail, obviously we would be hearing it over and over again, but we don't. Prior criminal record? Absolutely nothing. Person who served as a third-party custodian, actually in federal court, not to say that they do it better, I don't think they do. God, don't quote me on that, but I don't think they do. But they allow third-party custodians. But does she need one? We don't think, Judge, based upon the evidence that's been presented here, her conduct at the jail, her life experiences, her close-knit family, she doesn't need that. She should be able to go to her lawyer's office, plow through this truckload, they called it truckload of evidence that they're going to give us, that they've collected over 15 years, as opposed to sitting in the jail.
Truckload of evidence for 15 years. Cannot wait. Hey, Neverly, it's so good to see you. Happy Monday.
With us visiting 2 or 3 times a week are doing that. That's not a factor, but Judge, I think you can consider that, balance that out with who she is, what her life has been like, and the incident. And then one of the most interesting factors, Judge, I found was that, and I don't know, I'll put it in a nice way. We haven't seen all the documents from the grand jury yet, and we're very interested in seeing it. But this grand jury pushed back. You know, this old saying about, well, you can indict a ham sandwich. I know it's hadn't happened in a couple of cases that are around the country right now. But the interesting thing, this grand jury pushed back. And the most fascinating part about the time the grand jury pushed back, these law enforcement officers said stuff that just didn't make any sense. That's what happened. And when you read it, you probably have read it already, that's part of the strength of the case that you should look at. Judge, no prior criminal record, ties to Iowa. She's willing to stay away from the family. It's not going to be any issue with her being in contact with the Oakland family for 15 years. She's done that. If there's a need, I think that's our call or her call, our family calls, if she needs to go for any type of mental health examination. She's willing to take a drug test if that's necessary to get it done. They would allow an inspection of the home to go in to see if those weapons are removed. The case I just finished in Adams County, that was one of the requisites that we had. Obviously, you can put it in your order saying no firearms in the home.
Good night, Julie. Neverly, this is a 15-year-old. It was a cold case. It was the murder of Ashley Okland in Des Moines, Iowa. She was a real estate agent. She was doing an open house, and someone came in and shot her in the chest and in the face. And it's been a cold case. But there was a lady, Kristin Ramsey, who also worked for the builder, and she was seen pacing outside. She was never arrested, but they've just arrested her in March. She's 53 years old. She's in jail. This is her arraignment. And originally, she was indigent when she was first arrested, but then she all of a sudden now has a major high-powered team, the best in Iowa.
No drugs in the house and have an inspection. She can be subject to pretrial release conditions. She's willing to do all of that. A bracelet. Do I think that you have to go that far? I don't think so, Judge, based upon the evidence that's been presented here. But we are putting those options on the table for you to consider. And let me close with just a couple of matters that are really distressing from what the state did in their pleadings. They claim there was a witness, but they don't acknowledge that one of the witnesses that they claim was practically blind and didn't identify anyone. They claim that they have some type of new evidence, but not one single iota of new forensic evidence was brought to the grand jury's attention. They claim they have a timeline, but yet they had a broken clock, and the person who couldn't see had to punch the clock to make the sound, and the time was off. They claim they have a motive that they tried to hint through cross-examination, but the motive, I don't even want to say it, but it's pure speculation. They claim they had some physical evidence, it would seem, but no physical evidence. The phone records have not been disclosed yet in this matter. And, Your Honor, let me just say one thing before closing about the strength of the evidence. And your experience in this area, you've done a lot of cases, and so is Mr. Brown and Mr. Schultz. All right, just picture with me 1 second. You have a person, let's say of interest, who's there for an hour or so, and you think they fired a firearm. They would say, well, we don't have all the technical.
Yes, Michelle, they're saying one of the witnesses is blind. But I guess one of the witnesses is claiming they heard, you know how townhomes share a wall? They heard something. Now, why they're coming forward now, I don't know. I'm very curious.
Stuff out there that we used to have. But what's the old-fashioned way, Judge? 15 years ago, you did an antimony and barium test. That was so simple. They didn't even do that. And they take reports and they have new people look at it and say, this is good enough to pass muster. So we use.
Amen, Kristin. She says, if they have less evidence than the unindicted co-conspirator, I'm going to be miffed. Yeah, that's saying it mildly, for sure.
Those judge, and I know you've indicated in your prior ruling and your philosophy at least, that the fights that we have going on and will be going on for a while is not something you have to decide. But the evidence otherwise, Judge, we've met the preponderance. The state, you can only consider that cross-examination questions. They were weak at best. And we believe that we've addressed the ones that we thought had been resolved because they knew better. Now, maybe they're going to tell you something different right now. But when we started this case, that's not where it was. And you didn't hear one person come up and say, they've seen her with drugs. They've seen her with firearms. We found this bullet somewhere. Judge, we asked for a reasonable bond. That's all we're asking for, so that she can prepare to defend herself and do it while she's out with a family who loves her and who she loves back. This is a unique case. It is a unique case. And we're asking you, Judge, to follow the evidence that was presented during the bond issue and give us a fair bond. That's all we want today. Thank you, Judge.
I think he's really good. Welcome, coercive control. I thought you joined a minute ago, but thank you. Happy you're here. Yeah, I think the blind witness heard something.
Thank you, counsel. Next, I'll hear from the state.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, Andrew.
The state's position here is that the bond set currently in the amount of $2 million, cash only, be maintained. There are a number of considerations that the court can take into account that involve the totality of the case, involving the minutes of the grand jury, the minutes of testimony that have been filed, and considering all the facts and circumstances in this case. There's a whole laundry list of considerations the court takes into account pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 811.1, subparagraph 2, I believe is the correct citation. Basically, what the court is looking at in terms of all those factors relates to making a determination sort of as to the future. Is there a reasonable assurance the defendant is going to appear at all the court proceedings, that she'll do what she's required to do? Is her release, or does her release constitute, or will there be a consideration that it would jeopardize the personal safety of her or another person or persons? Chief among those considerations that the court has to take into account are the nature and circumstances of the offense. I find it interesting that the defense argues here, well, that's not that important, and then goes through and tells you how bad our case is. Without having done any discovery in this case, there's been no motion for discovery. They haven't looked at our complete file. They've not asked to look at our complete file. We have an open discovery policy. They know that.
Isn't that interesting? The attorneys haven't even asked for the discovery. Neverly, how's the defendant related to the victim? So the only thing we know is that the victim, so she was the realtor doing that open house at the townhome, and the builder of the townhome community, the defendant worked for them as a sales manager.
Yet throughout this argument today and through the pleadings that we've seen from the defense, they seem to make it sound like we're keeping things from them or stating things that they're never going to have, which is not the case. So let's look at the nature and circumstances of this. It's the first consideration the court makes in the laundry list of things that's in Chapter 811. This is a Class A felony. The defendant is facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole if she is convicted. The nature of the charge in and of itself creates a situation where a defendant is more likely to flee. Once she understands the nature of the case against her, which includes the evidence in the, not only that was presented to the grand jury, and all the evidence, by the way, presented to the grand jury is part of the investigative file. But once she's faced with that, in our estimation, it makes her more likely to flee. It also potentially puts other persons in danger. Her life is different now. It was several weeks ago. She's not charged with Class A felony. Now she is. That changes any person's circumstances.
She has had access to weapons in the past. There's no assurance the defense can give us that she will not continue to have access to weapons. I don't think there's anything they could really say that would keep us or would provide an assurance to the court in particular that she would not have access to weapons. Concerning the circumstances of this offense, Mr. Parrish has spent some time here this afternoon assailing the investigation and what has been done that needs to be addressed. I'm not going to go through all the details. I'll address the matters that he raised, but this case has been thoroughly investigated. This was not a case that where our investigators said, hey, let's look at this case, and then the next day we were filing it. There's been a considerable amount of time, effort, and energy that has been put into this case over a number of months that they've been working on it. Leads that the defense raises in the pleading they filed yesterday concerning other potential suspects, those leads have been exhausted. The defendant, there was a reference that she had gone to get help from a colleague. That's not accurate. She did leave the scene after the shooting happened. As she returned, there was about a 15-minute period where that happened. The defense has raised the lack of physical evidence like DNA, blood spatter, gunshot residue, that even if those things did exist, they would really have no significant bearing on the investigation. The gunshot residue, I find it interesting that they raised that one in particular. Our laboratory at the DCI has not done gunshot residue testing for 15 plus years because of the lack of reliability of gunshot residue testing. So anyway, given those things, I mean, I agree with Mr. Parrish in the sense that, yeah, this will all come out at some point, but the facts, the nature of the case, the nature of the crime, and the circumstances are factors that the court has to consider. Again, Judge, under the circumstances of this case, given what sentence that is facing the defendant if she is convicted, you have all of the details. There is a front-end timeline to this offense that occurred. It's 1:56 p.m. It has to do with an email that Ashley Okland sent that was unrelated to the homicide, other than she was making plans for that night. And then there's a 911 call that is made on the back end of it. That's a very tight timeline. Given that in conjunction with the witness who observed Kristin Ramsey in the area, her statements that she made to police, which can only best be described as inconsistent, are such that the nature of this case, the circumstances of this case demand a higher bond. And that's where we would ask that the court place that. It was set initially at $2 million cash only, and we would ask that it remain there. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, I have not made any decision, but I want to have the benefit of full information. Should I decide to change conditions of release and lower bond, I obviously have the ability to add other conditions of release. Are there any that the state would be requesting?
Judge, if under any circumstances, if the defendant is released under any conditions, even if she were able to post a $1 million or multi-million-dollar cash bond.
Now, I'm not a psychologist or anything, obviously, but the way she's sitting over here at her table with her powder blue suit and Corey Richards blouse, she's, we learn about when you're dropping your chin and you're kind of looking down. You have to take all that into consideration. It's like,
We would ask that she be placed under the supervision of the Department of Correctional Services. We ask that she be placed on an ankle monitor and put under the most restriction the court would be allowed. There may be other conditions I'm not thinking of at the moment. I know there's been a history, at least with one other defendant, where she was placed under house arrest. I think that was a reference that was made in another case I did with Ms. Gentry. And if that restriction were available to the court, we would ask that be imposed as well. But we would ask for for lack of a better term, the tightest restrictions the court could place upon her should she post any bond, including a cash bond.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Parrish, sir, again, since it's your motion, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think Mr. Brown's going to do that if that's okay with you.
Of course. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. It sounds like the state is primarily relying on the nature and circumstances of the offense. And to support that, they want to turn the court's attention to the minutes of testimony, which are the grand jury transcripts. But we want to remind the court to not put as much weight and emphasis on those minutes and those transcripts as the state wants, because under the rules of criminal procedure, that same book that the state held up
at the beginning of this proceeding and relied on does not require the state of Iowa to allow us to present any evidence on behalf of Chrissy at that time. And furthermore, those grand jury rules that they rely on require no evidence of mitigation or no exculpatory evidence be presented during the grand jury testimony. So essentially, all of these hundreds or thousands of leads they received, none of that was presented. All of the potential exculpatory evidence that is included in a file that we, for the very first time here, heard that there's an open file policy, when just moments ago we were back in chambers and we were told that it would not be disclosed because it doesn't want to be done in a piecemeal fashion, was available to us. So we're a little bit concerned about some of the statements that are being made here today to the court on the nature and the circumstances when we don't have a lot of this stuff. The court hasn't seen the exculpatory evidence, and we believe there is exculpatory evidence in there because of past press statements that were made at the time of the offense, leads that were explored that were never presented. So again, when we're talking about the nature and circumstances and relying on the testimony and the transcripts, be cautious, be careful, because we haven't had our turn yet. And we are waiting for the discovery, and we will defend this case on the nature and the circumstances. Now, also, in terms of there's no assurance that can be given to the court on flight or things like that, Judge, or access to guns, which is what we heard in the state's argument. I mean, the court can give assurances, and they're called court orders. If there is a situation, take it out of the context of this case, there's a dispute between two married folk. There is a no contact order that is entered. That no contact order gives assurance that somebody's going to be protected. That gives assurance that somebody's not going to be within the vicinity of that person. That same kind of assurance can be given in this case through a court order, preventing Chrissy from having access to firearms, to anything else that the court is concerned about. So absolutely, the court can give assurances to the community that Chrissy doesn't pose a risk of harm because the court has directed her to. And there's contempt for that. And there's revocation of bond and all of those consequences that would be.
Kristin, I agree. You said these attorneys sound expensive. That's what I'm saying. I mean, how was she indigent and now she's got this team? This is an expensive team.
Available. So yes, this court absolutely can give assurances to the public. Now, I'm not going to belabor the other factors because they overwhelmingly support a drastic reduction in bond in this case. The state focused on one or two, but we have family ties. We have seamless employment over Chrissy's entire life. We have her character. We have discussed there's no mental health issues. There is a lifetime length of residency in the community. There's no record of convictions, sans a speeding ticket. There's been no issue with court appearances because she's never been in trouble before. All of these factors, Your Honor, support that dramatic reduction in bond. Now, I know every case is different, but the prosecutors did cite to two cases out of Dallas County where the defendants, I believe, started out with a $1 million bond. One of those cases, I'm not sure if a bond review was even asked. In the other case, the defendant had a pretty significant criminal history that the state relied on for the $1 million bond to remain where it was. And if those are $1 million bonds in those cases, we feel like that should be the ceiling where the court starts considering this case and go down from there. And if you look at all of those factors, they do support what we're asking, which is a $100,000 bond. We would be able to post an unsecured 10% of that amount to the clerk of court. We would agree to electronic monitoring. We would agree to a curfew. We would agree to being appointed a pretrial release officer with the Department of Correctional Services or any other designee that the court deems appropriate. You heard unequivocally the evidence in this case, including over 70 pages of community support. You heard from witnesses who Chrissy is. Her character since she was a child until now has been unwavered. There's no evidence that there is anything different in who she is now and it is against who she was then. That's why we're asking that the bond be reduced to the request that we made.
Thank you, counsel. Well, I want to end where I began by acknowledging that I understand that the outcome of this hearing is important to all concerned. I have an important responsibility to make a determination of the motions that are pending before the court. And just so the parties know and the people here watching know, the court has discretion in this proceeding. But my discretion is just not unlimited. It's not my whim. There are certain factors that I have to decide and have to consider, including the law, a number of characteristics of the defendant, a number of factors. I've heard evidence today, and I've heard arguments of counsel. And I want to take some time to consider those arguments, to look at the evidence more clearly, again, in light of what I've heard here today, so I can make the best decision I can on what I've heard and what will in this case, be a suitable bond, whether or not the bond should be modified. In making my determination, it's important the public know that a bond is not meant to punish somebody. The defendant is presumed innocent. On the flip side, there's been a finding of probable cause that the defendant committed a very serious crime. The court will have to give thought to what I've heard, and I intend to issue a ruling in writing. I'm hopeful by the middle of next week at the latest. I want to close by saying to counsel that I appreciate your efforts today, representing your respective positions. You've given me a lot to think about, and I appreciate your advocacy, because in order for me to make the best decision I can, it's incumbent upon me to hear from both sides, putting forth their best arguments. So thank you for that. Hopefully that'll sharpen my decision making. I also want to close by thanking the members of the community or interested party who came here today to watch. Your behavior lived up to what I expected. This is an important matter. It needs to be conducted with dignity, and you've lived up to that, so thank you very much. With that, we are adjourned.
All right, so we'll find out this week. So that attorney, Mr. Parrish, that did most of the arguing, presenting, whatever you want to call it, somebody in chat earlier said that he is the #1 defense attorney in Iowa. I'm going to give a prediction, and I don't know anything about Iowa. I bet it is lowered, but I bet it's not lowered to 100,000. Yeah, JJ Ferris. How can there be no criminal history yet they found drugs? Big time drugs, both times in her house. I don't know. How long has this judge been on the bench? I don't know. I'll look that up. But just real quick, I was going to show
Today is a day my family has thought about very often over the last 14 years.
this was from the
Yeah, that
press
was the brother of
conference,
Ashley Okland.
the day she was arrested.
Today is a day my family has thought about very often over the last 14 years.
Yeah, that was the brother of Ashley Okland, a 27-year-old realtor who was gunned down in West Des Moines, Iowa in 2011. And now after 15 years, a crack in that cold case. Ashley was shot and killed in broad daylight, hit twice at close range while hosting an open house at a townhome development. That brutal murder rocking the town, sending shockwaves through the real estate community as well. And now a break in the case. 53-year-old Kristin Ramsey now charged with first-degree murder in the death of that realtor. Newly released court documents showing Ramsey was spotted at the scene. A witness claims to have heard 2 loud noises outside of the townhome, then saw Ramsey outside speaking on a phone. Now, police say Ramsey did not call 911. Ramsey has been interviewed multiple times in this investigation, and she's allegedly given conflicting versions of her whereabouts during the time of the shooting. She's now being held on $2 million bond. Joining us now for a closer look at this case, national trial attorney Madeline Somerville. Madeline, it's good to see you again. I'm interested, if there was an eyewitness all of this time, why did it take 15 years to make an arrest here?
It's a great question. And sometimes that's just the way that it happens. It's very difficult to track people down. And it seems like it wouldn't be in a day and age now where it's so easy to get a hold of people. Technology is easy to use to try to track people because there's cameras everywhere. If this happened 15 years ago, it was comparatively impossible, right? So using the technology that we have now, it makes things a lot easier to be able to go back, look at these cold cases and figure out what might have actually happened and to actually find a witness like the one that we found here.
Officials say there were already inconsistencies in Ramsey's story. Why wouldn't that be enough before this?
Well, I think with the inconsistencies in her story, it always makes her a suspect. And the problem is that when you have people, right, human beings conducting these reviews, some people use their instinct and their intuition and they say, well, we think that this person might be someone to look into or not. It's a matter of their discretion. And so when people use their discretion in a way that it causes them to make a mistake, right, we all suffer. But that's just the name of the game, right? You train the people as best as you possibly can so that they make the best decisions possible for the case. But sometimes that just doesn't work out.
What can we expect now from the prosecution?
Well, I know that today the issue was with the bond hearing. So with the witness's statement that we heard, which was that we literally saw her driving away from the scene and not have called 911, she is a flight risk. And so it absolutely makes sense that they would not lower her bond and they would not allow her to leave because she is somebody that they would expect to leave. So what we can expect from the prosecution is trying to move as quickly as possible because they're going to get constantly bombarded by the defense with requests for things to try to move this along faster because she is in jail, right? And she might be forever in the future, but if not, then this is all time that she could have been living her life. So they will be pressured constantly. So it looks like they will be moving as fast as possible to do what's called discovery, to get all the evidence and items needed to be able to make the case that they need to, and to talk with all the witnesses that they're planning. They also need to anticipate objections and arguments that will come from the other side in anticipation of trial.
Yeah, really appreciate your insight here. Madeline Somerville, good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and
I hate Chris Como. Okay. So you were asking Andrew about the judge. So here we go. Judge McAllister, Polk County, was appointed to the bench in April 2019. So just 7 years. He received his undergraduate degree in history from Missouri in 1990, his JD from University of Missouri Law School in 93. Before his appointment, he worked as the judicial law clerk, 5th Judicial District of Iowa, 20 years as a prosecutor. All right, so we'll see. Building a case for 15 years. And what are we going on our case that we're all following? 12? Yeah, I can't stand Cuomo at all. Yes, John, I agree. When you look at the defendant's face, she looks like she's been struggling with this all these years. I know. I mean, she's a year older than me. I don't know. We all, none of us think we look like people our age. Are y'all like that? If you, like when I see friends that I've known for my whole life, I'm like, oh my God, I mean, they've really aged. So it's funny. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Cold cases can be slippery. I mean, they can be tough, right? Yes, we will have a Wendy watch party. You like the judge? Yeah, Missouri's got a very reputable school too. So, but I will keep y'all posted. Ruth Ann, you don't like Cuomo either? I mean, why is he on a news station and saying it's balanced coverage? Of all the people saying that, give me a freaking break. Ooh, a Wendy got her groove back party. I love it. And show you on my shirt, the indictment watch. Okay, so Nikki, I look in the mirror and wonder how I became my mother. I know I do all these mannerisms. My brother's like, it freaks me out when you do that. So y'all have a good night. Thank you. I'll keep you posted if I see that we get news on this one, but I think it's going to be a good one. I mean, we'll have to watch all the different hearings and things, but have a great evening. Yes, there is the bonfire store, the trial, the indictment watch. I freaking love this. I can't wait. Oh, yes, Christina is so talented. Yes. Yeah, judge said midweek. Well, that starts Tuesday, in my opinion. I'm never old until I look in the mirror. Yeah, I hear you, John. Good night, everybody. I'll see y'all soon.
I'm Leslie B, just a seeker, a story keeper, and we're still watching, waiting.